You're listening to the Telltale Channel. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. This is Greg Locke, if you don't know him. This is him with a bat, a baseball bat, with Bibles taped to it.
The demon comes out when you expel it. The stronghold comes down when you demolish it with the Bible. You gotta start tearing that mess up.
That's Greg Locke, dude. Anyway, this is the guy that's been accused of financial crimes, financial mismanagement, or whatever. Let's read the article, see what it says here. 2 married pastors at Greg Locke's Central Tennessee Church have resigned, claiming the founding pastor created a spiritually abusive and manipulative culture. He's a Trump MAGA-Potamian, if you will, so that doesn't surprise me. They are Justin and Casey Greenwell, formerly the online pastors at Locke's Global Vision Bible Church in Lebanon, due east of Nashville. The pastors are also accusing Locke of engaging in financial mismanagement and a lack of accountability and have a tell-all book coming out soon. Oh boy, you know I'm going to be reading that book. The Greenwells voiced their claims Tuesday in a resignation letter to Locke and a post on Facebook. Most of the 87 comments posted on the latter by Thursday afternoon were in favor of the Greenwells' decision to leave. This is not the first time pastors have left Greg Locke's church on bad terms. There were 2 other people, Gina and Brian Warren were their names. They were Greg Locke's security team, or they were the head of his security. They taught him kickboxing and stuff like that. And they were there for 7 or 8 months, I think, before they asked him to not be involved in the Reawaken America tour because it had a bunch of demonic people and so on and so forth. And after they asked him not to be involved in the Reawaken America tour, everything came crumbling down. The very next day after they asked him not to, this is a whole saga that I covered at the time. After they asked him not to talk about it, he came out on stage and did this.
We got first and last names of 6 witches that are in our church.
It was 2, Brian and Gina Guy Warren, I think.
And you know what's strange? 3 of you are in this room right now. Three of you in the room right now. You better look in my eyeballs. We ain't afraid of you, you stinking witch. You devil-worshiping Satanist witch. We cast you out in the name of Jesus Christ. We break your spells. We break your curse. We got your first name. We got your last name. We even got an address for one of you. You so much as cough wrong, and I'll expose you in front of everybody in this tent, you stinking witch. You were sent to this church to destroy us. You were sent to this church to lure us in. You were sent to this church to cast spell. Listen, some of you been sick because you befriended that witch. 2 of you in my wife's ladies' Bible study, and you know who you are, and we gonna ask you to get out.
Really, it was just 1 in the Bible study. Head of security, Gina Guy Warren. Anyway, that's how he deals with power struggles. That's how he has always dealt with power struggles. Come after them and attack them. Here you go. This is another example of how he deals with power struggles. This is from mid-September 2021.
We got some people under this tent right now. You have the hardest time keeping your mouth shut about your church. So I'm going to sit here for about 15 seconds and just give you a chance to leave anytime you want to. Because we need your seat anyhow, you complaining, judgmental Pharisee. You can leave anytime you want to.
You know what I find fascinating? I'm sorry, this is a quick aside, but he calls them judgmental Pharisees when the Pharisees are what the Jewish community eventually became. Like, modern day Jews are the Pharisees from the Bible, rabbinic Jews. And Greg Locke is absolutely obsessed with modern day Jews, like to a weird degree. He's so obsessed that he did DNA tests and found that his wife is like has some Jewish ancestry of some sort, and he's like freaking out over it. He's like, oh my God, it's insane.
I'm just gonna sit here for a minute and let you walk out. If you can call me out behind closed doors, why don't you be man enough, put on your big boy pants, stand up and walk out right now in front of everybody, you coward. Woo! I'm fired up this morning. Turn this microphone up. I'm fired up.
Fired up. Anyway, the point is, that's what he does when there's a power struggle of some sort. He calls them witches and accuses them of things and points fingers at people and gets them worked into a blood frenzy and ready to do something psychotic. Stochastic terrorism is what it's called, actually. Anyway, I'm 100% sure that we're going to see a lot of stuff happening against the Greenwells sooner rather than later. Locke has continually made headlines for his controversial actions at his church. He's known for burning books, hunting witches, and creating viral videos about COVID-19 and election conspiracies. His church has also received a deluge of noise complaints. Yeah. Ugh, God. I cover this stuff every time he gets himself into more hot water. The Greenwells told the Roy's report that Locke's church has no functioning board and isolates and manipulates staff. This has become about people as assets, not as children of God, Casey said. The people have become assets to move the machine. As long as people are in the seats, then they're happy. The Greenwells said they're publicly sharing their story not out of anger, but to help the church find repentance and restoration. I don't want to see this ministry crushed under bad decision-making, Justin said. I'm not here to try to bury this ministry. I want this ministry to be revived. I want to see unity come to this house, and I want to see restoration come to this house. TRR repeatedly reached out to Locke and Global Vision Bible Church for comment, but did not hear back prior to publication. They still believe in Locke. In 2020, the Greenwells started attending Global Vision Bible Church online. They loved Locke's teaching so much that a year later, they sold their house in Indiana to move to the Tennessee church to sit under Locke's leadership. Holy dude. It is a cult. I mean, actual, real, full-blown cult. Seriously. I don't say that lightly. And I don't know what the deal is with these people specifically. I don't know these people, but I do know that the Warrens who previously left were generally honest, although they were complete psychopaths, hate gay people, hate abortion, the whole nine yards, complete nutcases. But they were honest in their beliefs, and they were honest in their belief that Greg Locke is a bad person at heart. Just an example of what the Warrens said. They did this whole 2-hour video about Greg Locke on this dude's channel, and I covered the whole thing on my Unfiltered channel if you want to see it forever ago, but here's just a snippet.
And she said, yeah, and I know a lot of people are complaining about you guys too. I'm like, well, we come here, we've been coming for 5 months. We want you to know your staff doesn't even talk to us. Do you know the people that are on your team? We're here for protecting you. They see us videoing. They see us with us working out. How come your staff doesn't even say hello? And how come you've got a homosexual spirit with one of these guys? You realize that?
I mean, the dude was straight, or at least married to a woman, to my understanding, but they believed that he was gay, and so they said he has a homosexual spirit. Can people just like not have lisps anymore? Can people just not like enjoy knitting? Is that banned? People not allowed to knit without being accused of having a homosexual spirit? Like, really, these people are scumbags, all of them, Greg Locke included. And I'm sure the Greenwells are too, since they say that they support Greg Locke still.
I told him, stuff just came out of my mouth. 48 hours later, we were a witch and we were fired. You tell me what happened at 11:24 on Friday the 28th. It's Greg Borchards. Hey, Gina, is Brian with you? Yeah, Greg, Brian's always with me. Okay, I need to talk to you guys. Okay, just a second.
Greg Borchards or whatever. He is basically Greg Locke's second in command. He handles pretty much everything on Greg's behalf.
And I got to go get him at the gym. I keep him on, speaker. I'm like, okay, hold on, I'm on my way. Brian, hey, it's Greg Borchards. Hey, you guys are no longer welcome at the church. You're off the security team, and do not contact the pastors. We've had death threats, and he had said from that pulpit, some of you are going to lose your jobs. Well, yeah, one of the people that told me I need to go hide underground for 3 weeks and change my name. I don't know why this guy got...
Yeah, he's super disturbing, honestly. Like I said, stochastic terrorist. Greg Locke is a stochastic terrorist. The point is that this is not the first time this has happened. I can't even... But like, it wasn't their choice, though. It was not the Warrens' choice. It is the Greenwells' choice here, though. That's crazy. Anyway, let's continue. They said they ran into repeated issues with Locke and his wife, especially concerning the church's financials and the lead pastor's lack of accountability. They first confronted Locke about this a year ago, and the lead pastor allegedly promised to address their concerns in the next year. These are them, I get. Justin and Casey Greenwell. Interesting. He's since failed to do so, couple says, so they decided to resign, even if they must give up their current source of income to do so. Quote, I do not write this to dishonor you, nor do I write it to betray you. I write it because I genuinely love you, Justin said in the letter. I believed in you. I still believe in you, and I want you to be a great pastor because you were, and I truly believe you still can be. I think I have a sound effect for this. It's appropriate here. Yeah.
I'm dumber than a box of rocks in a lot of areas.
Yeah, that's Greg Locke. Thank you, Greg, for your insight into your mindset. Because Locke has not responded to their confrontations in private, they said they wanted to share their story publicly following Matthew 18 guidelines. Wow, dude. According to Matthew 18, 15 to 17, if a brother sins against you, you should first confront him privately. If he doesn't listen, take another person with you. If he still doesn't listen, tell it to the church. Some argue that Matthew 18 is a guide for handling personal offenses. For sinning pastors/elders, the applicable passage is 1 Timothy 5:20, which encourages publicly exposing the pastor's sin. The Greenwells say they want to enable congregants to be aware of what's going on behind the scenes. We simply can no longer remain silent about things that have deeply affected people, including us, Justin wrote. Those who only see the public moments, stage lights, live streams, and curated interactions cannot fully understand the weight of what takes place in staff meetings, in conversations, and in the culture that forms behind closed doors. That is wild. I cannot believe another set of people is leaving Greg Locke's church now. The Lockes made all the decisions. The couple says they've witnessed 3 glaring issues behind closed doors. The first is a lack of accountability for Locke. Locke claims to have several friends outside the church who serve as his accountability, Justin said, but within the church, there is no functioning board or council of elders. Right, we knew that. That's not private information. Greg Locke doesn't have any board or accountability partners or anything, which is unusual for a church. But he started Global Vision Bible Church, and so I guess he kind of views it as his property or whatever. Instead, the Greenwells allege that Locke and his wife, Taisha Ty, carry the full weight of decision-making. No one but the Lockes reportedly has access to the financials, and no one was allowed to question this. This established an atmosphere where correction was impossible, disagreement felt dangerous, and accountability simply did not exist, their letter said. This lack of covering left staff spiritually exposed, emotionally vulnerable, and without a safe or biblical structure to process concerns or conflicts. See, this is one of the things that really pisses me off about churches generally, is even if the pastor doesn't have any kind of financial accountability, like even if the pastor is hiding things or covering it up or whatever, there's still a group out there that can examine things and make sure there is accountability, and that's the IRS, because you have to file taxes every year, right? But not for churches. That works for businesses, but not for churches. It even works for nonprofits because they don't have to pay taxes, but they have to file at the very least and kind of lay out their whole situation to the IRS every year. But not churches uniquely. Churches have the unique ability to not even file, not even tell anybody what they're doing. That infuriates the shit out of me. Unfortunately, that's the case for every single church, and Greg Locke is not unique or special or whatever here. So I'm not really convinced that this is like a valid complaint on his. I guess the guy's saying he just doesn't like the way the whole thing is structured. Okay, well, I mean, it's not that much different from anything else. So why did you join the church in the first place if you didn't like how it was structured? This lack of covering left staff spiritually exposed, emotionally vulnerable, and without a safer biblical structure to process concerns or conflicts. Questionable finances. Because of the lack of oversight, the Lockes have allegedly made a number of concerning financial decisions. One of the decisions, Casey cites, is Locke's purchase of a $1.6 million house a year ago. But that was his own personal purchase, right? I mean, I'm not here to defend Greg Locke. He's a complete scumbag. But that doesn't I mean, that was his own money. The dude's filthy rich. He's written books. Of course, like 1.6 million is 10 times what I could afford. But in all seriousness, that's not that much in this housing market, especially for a family of like 8 people or whatever. I'm not even sure how many people Greg Locke has in his family now, but it's a lot. For having written books and being filthy rich the way he is, 1.6 million is like nothing. I don't know. I'm not convinced that this is as much of a problem as they want to portray. Some have claimed Locke used money from the church's building fund to buy the home. Okay, that would be a big deal. But they said the finances are locked down, right? And I think we need a little bit more than some claiming. I mean, those are weasel words. We need a little bit more than just hearsay and rumors, right? This allegedly caused a deal for the church to buy a new building to fall through due to lack of funds. I remember that when they were trying to buy a building. That's interesting. I hadn't thought about that. So he purchases a $1.6 million home, and their purchase of a building fell through right around the same time because they didn't have enough money in the church coffers. Interesting.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
Speaking to his congregation in November of last year, Locke vehemently denied the allegations and claimed that he bought the house with proceeds from selling his books. At the same time, he also said that me and 5 businessmen, under the grace of God, in 4 days, came up with the money and bought it. But according to Wilson County property records, the home is not owned by Locke, but by Global Vision Bible Church. Oh, now it's getting real. Now we're getting into actual potential, like, serious money mismanagement. Oh my God, that's crazy. And that's a beautiful house, dude. Wow, that's a beautiful house. Okay. Locke also challenged reports that the house was worth $1.6 million. Locke said the house was worth only $625,000, but he'd spent another $1 million to buy 28 acres. Okay, so you spent $1.6 million though, right? I mean, isn't that like the bottom line here? Why is he splitting hairs like this? The Roy's report has confirmed the address of Locke's home, which Zillow describes as a family compound at its best. The 4,500 square foot, 4-bedroom, 4-bath home sits on 28 acres and was acquired on October 4th, 2024 for $1.6 million. While the church now meets in a 32,000 square foot warehouse, Casey says they rent and don't own it. She added that the church has poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into a space to make it into a church with no board overseeing the process. That's absolutely true. And on top of that, Greg Locke has fundraised multiple times. I bet they don't even know about this or mention it in the article, but they don't. Let's just finish this section because I will add to this information that I personally know. Casey also alleged the church has received loans from individuals, but that Locke handled all the details. When she or other staff asked to look at the books for more transparency, they were told it's none of their business, she said. Wow. Okay, so Greg Locke started out in a circus tent, right? He purchased a big canvas tent, and the tent was destroyed multiple times. Here's one example of the tent being destroyed by natural disasters. This is a tornado this time.
The tent didn't fare so well, and so our security was there. They've taken some pictures. My wife's been over there. Some of our staff are already on the way. We have some men that help work on our tent that are heading that way now to assess the situation.
A tent was blown over and destroyed. I mean, a circus tent, a permanent structure. This is not like a cheap tent. This is a circus tent. Permanent structure destroyed by a tornado in Tennessee. Isn't Tennessee in the Appalachian Mountains? I mean, I know tornadoes touch down all the time. They touch down in West Virginia too. I'm just saying, if I were a religious man, which I'm not, I would, my eyebrows might go up a little bit at the natural disasters destroying this dude's tent. Okay, so that's the first one. That's number one. And then there's this one, okay? After that tent was destroyed, he fundraised, I think, $500,000 from his church. He held fundraisers, and he purchased a semi-permanent tent structure. So it was technically still a tent, but it was like from a big, expensive company. It comes down and lays down like semi-permanent like beams and things like that and builds out a semi-permanent structure beyond just a tent. Spends $500,000 on it, and the following, I think he bought it in the spring, if I remember correctly. By winter, only like 8 months later or something, this happened.
I want to let you guys know that the tent has withstood a grave amount of damage. But with all of the snow accumulation and the wind, and more snow to come. The tent is just not able to handle the weight of it. This is inside the tent, which means there is a giant, see all that snow coming in there? A giant amount of snow that is on top of the tent. And so what happened is the walls over here have buckled.
So again, tornadoes, they touch down all the time in Tennessee, okay? And in West Virginia, I understand that. I know that. But that's one natural disaster that destroyed the dude's tent. And then the following year, I think, a second natural disaster, a snowstorm, destroys his next tent. $500,000 fundraised, burned up, lit on fire, destroyed, worthless now because of this natural disaster. So I believe, if I remember correctly, he went back to a canvas tent temporarily. And then he said, I'm going to buy a building. I'm going to buy an actual building for the church, and we're going to move, because they had this conflict with their neighbor, Larry. Larry hated them because they're obnoxious, they're loud, they're always burning books and bringing nutcases around all the time. Anyway, so Greg Locke moved. He starts renting this building and moves his entire crew and congregation to an entirely different area. Not like a town over, but pretty far away. And before you know it, I guess that deal fell through. They were planning on purchasing a new church building, and the deal fell through. But he had enough money to buy a $1.6 million house with church funds, but not a building, not a church building. That is actually very interesting. Anyway, let's continue here with what we were reading. A cutthroat culture. This is the other part of this, I guess. Absolutely fascinating. The Greenwells described in their letter that the church was run with a culture of hierarchy and emotional manipulation by Locke and his wife, Taisha Ty Locke. Casey told TRR that the spiritual abuse especially stemmed from Ty, who oversees the church's staff. Casey alleged that Ty chooses favorites in the staff and pits individuals against each other, creating a cutthroat environment. Ty would declare some individuals or ministries within the church her children and would personally disciple them and more readily give them funds from the church, Casey said. But others she reportedly left alone to navigate ministry by themselves. This is kind of compounded by the fact that they declared themselves apostles recently. 2024, May 20th, 2024, Greg Locke named himself, and I believe Ty Locke as well, apostles. Beyond just prophets of God, beyond just disciples of Jesus, they are apostles, like Peter or Paul or whoever else.
The Bible says in 1 Corinthians chapter 12.
That's Ty and Greg right there on the left. You can see Ty Locke. It's his second wife, who was also his church secretary before they got married and before he got divorced from his first wife. Honestly, I think that his divorce was above board. He had the right. His first wife was an abusive psycho, truthfully. She needs help, and I hope she got it. But anyway.
1 Corinthians chapter 12, and in verse 28, the Lord has appointed to the church, first, apostles, second, prophets, third, teachers.
Dude crying right now? Is that what's happening? What's she doing? She's just walking around the stage?
Third, teachers. We are here today, Pastor Greg, Pastor Ty, today also to say Apostle Greg and Apostle Ty.
By the way, they appointed themselves apostles. It's not like he's getting some special privilege for all his hard work. He told this random douchebag in his church or wherever to stand up here and appoint him an apostle.
Officially recognize what so many have recognized for many years. 9 months ago, in this place, Pastor Mike Signorelli gave a word at the end of the National Deliverance Conference. Something was conceived in the Spirit that today we're giving birth to. Amen?
Anyway, he cries all the time, too. I think that's kind of interesting. Anyway, nothing against crying. I'm just saying he does it a lot. Anyway, let's continue reading here. Casey said Ty would invite all women's staff out to get their nails done, but exclude her. Wow, that sucks. She added that she and another woman were barred from attending a women's staff retreat led by Ty. Additionally, Ty would tell staff that she'd been to the throne of heaven and seen what everyone was struggling with, Casey said. Wow, that's bizarre. That is not public information. I have never heard that before from them. It caused people to feel very uncomfortable, the Greenwells wrote in their letter. Staff were moved, corrected, or overlooked based on her emotional state or personal preferences rather than a unified pastoral strategy. You mean apostolic strategy? The partiality created by this dynamic was profoundly painful. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Nonprofit registration questions. Oh my God, dude, this guy, whoever wrote this article, is very thorough. I know so much about this subject, and he's hit it the nail on the head every single time. This is really good. Regarding their nonprofit registration, before we read this section, Greg Locke has been investigated by the IRS for directly endorsing political figures, which you cannot do. There are almost no limits on what you can do as a church leader, but that is the one thing that you can't do as a nonprofit organization, even a church. You cannot directly oppose or endorse specific political parties or candidates. You can talk shit about abortion, you can talk about taxes or whatever, but you cannot say, I endorse Donald Trump and I want the church to vote for Donald Trump. That's the one thing you can't do. And he did it. And he was investigated for it. So what did he do? He came out here and he did this.
So this is the part we need online, okay? This is the part that I hope the rest of them get. I hope they actually pay attention, because everybody's like, oh, what we need to do is take away their tax-exempt status, because he broke the law. A couple things about that. That's not how it works. Number two, we didn't break the law. And number three, did you know that churches are tax-exempt automatically?
That's true. Yep.
I find it interesting. It's like, well, them churches ought to pay taxes. Did you know one of the reasons we don't pay sales tax as a church and property tax as a church is because churches in America make up 90% of giving to charitable organizations?
Complete bullshit. When you say charitable organizations, you mean churches, just general churches. You're telling me churches, 90% of the money that's given away is given to churches. Is that what you mean? He's framing this as though 90% of the money that churches take in is put back out in charitable works. That's complete bullshit. That's not true in any way, shape, or form. It wouldn't surprise me to find that 90% of the money that's passed to nonprofits is passed to churches. But, you know, people like nonprofits, they get tax-exempt status because they're supposed to provide a public good. That's why that's written into the documents, you know, the law or whatever. They have to provide a public good. And they have to prove that public good more often than not, but not churches. Churches are automatically assumed to provide a public good, even though Greg Locke is not. He is directly harming society with the shit that he says and does. He is bad for society, actively bad for society. You know, the world would be better if Global Vision Bible Church wasn't in operation, if they had to close their doors. But he gets tax-exempt status anyway, by default. So here's the point. He said, people were calling for me to lose tax-exempt status, right?
So I want everybody online to pay real close attention. I almost brought the document. I was going to burn it right here on national television, but it ain't worth catching our tent on fire. So guess what I did this week? I got an attorney, and I dissolved our stinking 501c3 in this church, because the government ain't going to tell me what I can and what I can't say. So IRS, we don't need your stupid tax-exempt status. You can put it in a bag and burn it in your front yard.
It's not true. It's a lie. He didn't do that. I looked it up specifically. He didn't rescind his 501c3 status with Tennessee or with the federal government. His business licenses are still active to this day. Last I checked, and I checked like 6 months after he did this, and I've consistently checked. I mean, I haven't checked in the past couple of months, but he lied here. He did not. He said he got an attorney and revoked his own status. No, he didn't. He didn't. Funny enough, me covering this video is, I think, my biggest TikTok video, like 1 million views or something like that. Anyway, the point is, he lied. This is a lie. I just created a new website, firesidewatch.com. You can watch videos with friends, and everybody can play or pause the video. I made it so I could collaborate with other YouTubers, but I figured I might as well make it available to everybody. On top of that, you can add videos to the queue, upvote them, and sort by most upvoted. Give it a look, firesidewatch.com. And while you're at it, check out my Patreon, owenmorgan.com/Patreon. You can follow me there for free. Now back to the article. Nonprofit registration questions. The Greenwells also contend that Locke says the church is registered as a 501c3 nonprofit. However, searches using the IRS's tax-exempt search tool returned no results using either the church's name or tax identification number. It is registered as a nonprofit in Tennessee. I specifically looked it up. Phil Hackney, a religious tax law expert and professor at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law, told TRR that churches have no obligation to apply with the IRS to be a 501c3 charitable organization. Interesting. Hackney added that states generally stay out of church governance and often only require churches to register as a corporation. So are they claiming that Greg Locke is not registered with the federal government? We can look up his Tennessee registration in Tennessee's business search and see that he registered in 2006 and it is still active. Whether he's operating under that, I don't know, but it is still active. And if you're not using a business, then usually you want to dissolve that. Hackney added that states generally stay out of church governance and often only require churches to register as a corporation. Locke's church is incorporated as a nonprofit, according to the state of Tennessee. Right, but it is not listed as a registered charity. Wait, I don't understand the difference between being listed as a registered charity or a nonprofit. A spokesperson for the Secretary of State said churches are not required to register under the state's charities filings. So is this guy saying Greg Locke is not registered with the federal government because he doesn't believe that he needs to register with the federal government? Is he saying that he lit his tax-exempt status document on fire and then just stopped paying taxes, or was never paying taxes and just didn't do any more to move forward with it? That's interesting. Recording their experiences in a book, the Greenwells admitted in their letter that they should have voiced their concerns sooner, but they never felt safe to speak out. Last month, Justin said he felt God calling him to record their story in a book, Pulpit of Leaves. It's due to release in the coming weeks. Let's see if I can find that. Hold on. I'm going to get a copy. Apparently that's a flower called the Pulpit of Leaves is the name of a flower. Yeah, I'm not seeing the book. I guess we'll see if it comes out anytime soon and in what form it releases. There was things that we've seen that we kept quiet about, Justin said. There's a lot of repentance in this book. We were allowed the comfort of a paycheck and the comfortability of knowing that we had a job. We allowed it to skew our convictions. We would push back convictions. We were silent, all in the name of unity. Wow, that is fascinating. I am so interested. I'll be so interested to see what comes of this. I want to know how this plays out. Damn, I really want to read this book. Anyway, yeah, tell me what you think about it in the comments. This is super interesting.
We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com.
I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. There is an interesting protest against ICE going on right now. Churches are putting up signs that basically say, we're not putting up the nativity scene because we don't want baby Jesus to get caught by ICE, basically. Particularly this image right here, you can see, due to ICE activity in our community, the Holy Family is in hiding. This is the protest, the church protest against ICE right now, and I respect the hell out of it. I gotta be honest. Here's a video of it right here.
We have here is centurions who are also ICE in some sense.
Roman centurions wearing green vests with the word ICE handwritten on the front. One of the updates Pastor Michael Wolf has made to the nativity display this year at Evanston's Lake Street Church. Another, zip ties on the hands of the baby Jesus.
Our baby Jesus has zip ties on his hands because that's an actual incident that happened in our city. These are real world things that are happening, and we're trying to depict them and bring the sacred into it to tell a story.
Walk with power. It's a story this socially active church has been telling for years. Most recently in Broadview at the ICE detention facility, where in November Wolf and other ministers were arrested on misdemeanor charges of obstruction and disorderly conduct.
They all have to make decisions.
They were protesting ICE and they were arrested.
Of what's important and what are the priorities in life, what time is the right time to speak up and stand up for what is right.
The pastor says this display also sends an important message, especially at this time of year. about how we should be treating our neighbors.
It's really important how we treat our neighbors because we find out if you read the Gospels, how we treat our neighbors is how we are treating Jesus.
We reached out.
Absolutely, dude. 100%. I could not agree more.
Homeland Security, which so far has had no comment on this unique protest. Since the original pictures were posted to Facebook, the display has suffered under the elements. Mary's gas mask is gone, and the zip ties have been removed from the baby Jesus. The Lake Street Church says its work will continue as long as immigrants remain at risk.
Just hard respect for this church, right? And, you know, earlier they said they arrested children. I'm going to turn the sound off because it's just music, but yeah, they're arresting children. ICE is arresting children. Look, they have a child in handcuffs here, a literal child. How much? 7 years old, maybe? There is no excuse for what's happening right now. And if you are not standing up against this right now, then you are part of the problem. How fucking sad is that 7-year-old is being searched by ICE, or who I think is ICE. I mean, this is a compilation of ICE busting in windows with children in the car, arresting children, literally arresting children, ripping children out of the hands of their parents. Unforgivable evil. It is unforgivable evil. And I appreciate this church taking a stand by doing something so shocking, by making a point with this display, by putting handcuffs on baby Jesus like that. And then there's this ad, which I found particularly interesting. It's mostly music, so I'm going to talk over it for the audio audience. A girl runs up, hugs her dad when he comes in, and he's wearing an ICE jacket.
Daddy, how's your day?
What will you say when she asks about your day?
A mask can't hide you from the neighbors. Your children. And God. They'll know. You can walk away before the shame follows you home.
Daddy, how's your day?
What will you say? What will you say when you get home to your children? Unfortunately, the vast majority of ICE officials, in my opinion, probably go home and propagandize to their children and tell them black people and Mexicans and whoever are the problem in society and need to be incarcerated permanently or killed. And we end up with another generation of hateful, vile people. Unfortunately, these people, you know, you never see them pulling down their masks because they know what they're doing is wrong. They didn't start wearing masks after pushback. ICE has been wearing masks since Trump got into office, since day one, because they knew what they were doing was evil. Unfortunately, these are the same people. ICE, the people that we just saw in that ad, are the same people in this video. Neo-Nazi group rallies outside Little Rock Central High in Arkansas. Now, I played a video in another episode recently of the Little Rock 9, I believe, from Central High. It was the first integrated high school where black people were allowed to attend at the same time as white people in the same high school. This was the center of the civil rights battle, and neo-Nazis are protesting it.
Get a line! Losers! Cowards!
They're carrying around literal swastikas on black flags. What the
Cowards! Take the mask off! Take the mask off! Take the mask off! Let's see your face! What are you scared of? I thought you were.
That's it. That is the literal Sieg Heil, the Nazi salute, what he did there. And you can tell because he put it to his chest and then extended outward. Just like Elon Musk, if you remember. That is an identical salute to what Elon Musk did a while back.
Oh, I thought you crack mother. Tough guys. Tough guys. Take the mask off. Let's see it. Let's see it. Cowards. You got nothing to do. Bye-bye. Go read a book.
Dude just called him the K word. Jesus Christ. This is the Trump movement. This is the Trump movement. This is who applied for ICE. These are almost guaranteed ICE officials. Everybody who agrees with what ICE is doing is a Nazi, pretty much. That is vile. And, you know, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. When things feel hopeless, when it feels like there's nothing that you can do about a situation, when it feels like we can't change what's happening right now, it is that much more important that you keep a diary. After World War II, when we were reconstructing, society in Germany, the Allies were, when the Allies were reconstructing democracy and society in Germany, and when we were trying to piece together everything that happened and what people knew and when they knew it and who was involved, diaries were eternally useful. Victor Klemperer is one really valuable source of information because he recorded in his diary he was a Jewish guy who was a privileged Jewish guy because he fought in World War I on Germany's behalf. And German Jews who fought in World War I were privileged. They were allowed to stay and they were not murdered brutally. They were treated terribly. They were packed into little tiny apartments like sardines, 40 people in a single apartment room, literally people laying on top of each other with one bathroom because there wasn't enough room for people to spread out or whatever. And that's where Victor Klemperer stayed. So they were mistreated terribly, but he could stay in Germany through all of it. And he kept a diary through all of it. And we use that diary today to understand what people knew and when they knew it, and even who was involved to one degree or another. Your cousin is in ICE. Write it in a diary every single day. Because when we reconstruct American society, which we will, when we reconstruct it, diaries are going to be eternally useful to do it, to bring wrongdoers to justice. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. I hope that this ad kind of hits people and makes them think. But part of me believes that the people who are in ICE right now are gone. Their heads are just gone. There's no reversing it for them. They now just need to face justice in the form of a courtroom. Tell me your thoughts.
We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com.
I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. I want to listen to this interview with Charlie Kirk's wife, or ex-wife, or whatever, I guess, Erica Kirk. She said some absolutely absurd things. Just give this a listen.
One of the things that has happened over the 3 months since Charlie was murdered is...
Wow, has it been 3 months already? That's crazy.
...that people have gone through the thousands, maybe tens of thousands of hours of words he produced. He said more in 31 years than most people will say in a lifetime. Yes. And I want to read a few that have captured the most attention, especially on the political left, okay?
Yeah.
Some gun deaths were, quote, unfortunately worth it to preserve the Second Amendment, he said. Acknowledging that he wishes he didn't feel this way, he said, I'm sorry, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified.
Oh, I have a few more we're going to talk about in a minute.
He said the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was a mistake. Now, I realize that all of those quotes come from longer conversations that he had on his show.
Correct.
It's completely irrelevant. It does not matter. Those are the things that he said, and it wasn't in the context of a joke. It wasn't in a broader conversation about anything. It was, he believes that when he sees a black pilot, that they're not as qualified as a white pilot. He said gun deaths are worth it for the Second Amendment. I mean, how do you, what context could you add to that to make it any better than it is, other than it was completely and totally a joke and he was not serious and it was satirical? That is the only context you could add to it to make it not vile And that wasn't the case with the things that he said. There is no fixing that. He was a scumbag. I'm sorry, he just was.
But he did say those things. And Charlie is being memorialized by many people as a person who promoted civil discourse, as a person who said, come to the front of the line, let's have a civil conversation.
Even though he was not that person. He pretended to be some civil dude. He wasn't, as you'll see in a second.
How do you square that with the statements I just read?
I would love for everyone to be able to watch the full and entire clip of what he said.
That doesn't make it better, again, at all.
Charlie didn't care what skin color you were. He didn't care what religion you were.
Let me show you the conversations that Charlie Kirk said. Some of the like really disgusting things that he said.
And I'll tell you one more thing that's on my mind tonight, and conservatives everywhere. The idea that people are saying, well, he was an extremist, or he was a racist, or he was a Nazi, or a misogynist, whatever. Charlie Kirk was a mainstream conservative Republican. He had views that are held by tens of millions of people, including more than half the country in the last election.
Yeah, that's what disturbs the shit out of us.
If I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. It begs the question, when you see a black pilot, you wonder, you say, I hope they are qualified. And in the spirit of affirmative action, we have Ramon and Cadillac are your two pilots. They've never flown before, but they are black. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, is she there because of her excellence, or is she there because of affirmative action? I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know you do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. The war on white people continues. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously. We are raising a generation of weak people like Simone Biles. LeBron James is a self-interested, narcissistic, and we know he's not very smart. You're representing your nation. You're selfish sociopath, not very bright, not wise, not somebody of good character. She is a shame to the country. Blacks in America did not have the same rights they had today. Data shows they were actually better in the 1940s.
Blacks were better, quote unquote. The blacks were better in the 1940s. They were happier in the 1940s. I beg to differ. They were not. In fact, you know, there's a group of people called, I think, the Little Rock Nine. The Little Rock Nine, is that the name of the group? Some of them are still alive today, but they were the first, basically, 9 people who were not fully white to go to a white school. And if I remember, the Arkansas governor tried to force them with the National Guard to not go to the school. They lined the National Guard up along the school entrance to prevent them from entering the school. And Eisenhower, I believe, federalized the National Guard and got the 101st Airborne in, maybe, to enforce the federal law, to force Arkansas to allow these people in. And in 1996, the Little Rock Nine went on Oprah to face some of the people who harassed them the most when they were in class. The dude that these people are about to talk to was a monster when he was in school and harassed them relentlessly. But he's here to apologize to them. 1996.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
Knew Carlotta just because she had a locker close to me, and we would, you know.
And that's how I recognized you off the bat. I remember you. I remember your smile. I remember your eyes. I remember your cat calls. You used to get me coming out of English class, walking down the hall. You remember that? And
they're smiling, but their smiles are to hide the pain. She's really recounting a very painful experience, as she's about to explain in a second.
I've never forgotten your name. I've never forgotten your name. Never, ever.
Was he not nice to you?
He was insidious because he was continuous. He was like relentless. He never gave up. It wasn't like he did this one day. It was like every day. And he had eyes, and he really frightened me because every day he was there. You know, it wasn't like it was going to be today, Tuesday, Thursday. It's going to be every day.
Every time you see him, you know trouble.
So it was like Chinese water torture.
It was like he had a day job.
That's right.
It's like he had a day job.
Right, man. He was on time. He was on time and on target every day.
Every day.
Every day.
Does his apology mean anything to you?
I would like to come forward.
A lot. Yeah, it means a lot. Yeah.
Again, this is David Sontag, died in 2010. Some of these Little Rock Nine are still alive. This is not, 150 years ago. This is yesterday, basically. The people who experienced this are still with us. The people who drank from blacks and whites only water fountains are still with us. There are people alive today whose grandmother was a slave, whose grandfather was a slave. This was yesterday.
I'll reach you on the good.
Yeah, thank you.
And you better listen than you.
Yeah, it means everything to me.
Imagine accepting this guy's apology. Imagine accepting his apology after that. That had to be so fucking hard to deal with when they were in school, when they were going through this. It had to be so fucking hard. And Charlie Kirk said the Civil Rights Act, the thing that made it possible for them to go to an integrated school, he said it was a mistake. There is no context that makes that better. There is no additional information. There is no, you have to watch the whole thing to understand. Charlie Kirk was a piece of shit. I'm sorry that you don't want to accept that if you're listening, but he was a piece of shit. The things that he said were fucking vile and evil and represented everything bad in this country. The things that he said directly led to more pain and suffering for people who don't deserve it. He directly led to black people losing their jobs for no fucking reason. Look at this. This is a general of the U.S. military. I believe the first black general.
You know, one of the most insulting questions that gets asked me sometimes is, did they give you your 4th star just because it's a bicentennial year coming up and they wanted to say we got a black... In one word, one question, this guy has wiped out all the blood and sweat and tears and preparation and effort that it took me to prepare myself, to fill the squares, to fight the wars, to go to the schools, to go to Air University, and to study deep into the night, to hone my skills as a fighter pilot, and to get out there over way north in skies much less friendly than those of United and fight my way back home in the name of the foreign policy of my country. No, they didn't give me anything. And they don't give away stars in my service. You got to earn them. Generals are made, they're not born.
This guy was asked by a reporter, or did they give you this because it's, we're coming up on a bicentennial or whatever for the country. And with that statement, he erased all the hard work this guy put in. They don't just give stars to people. They don't just give law degrees to people. They don't just give pilot's licenses to people. I just created a new website, firesidewatch.com. You can watch videos with friends, and everybody can play or pause the video. I made it so I could collaborate with other YouTubers, but I figured I might as well make it available to everybody. On top of that, you can add videos to the queue, upvote them, and sort by most upvoted. Give it a look, firesidewatch.com. And while you're at it, check out my Patreon, owenmorgan.com/Patreon. You can follow me there for free. Here's another one right here.
I went to Harvard Law School. I've got a lot of degrees and awards. I've won cases at the U.S. Supreme Court, and I've been in courtrooms representing clients, getting there early, sitting at defense counsel's table, where the judge will walk in and immediately get mad at me. The judge will look at me and say, hey, you get back out there in the hallway. I don't want any defendants sitting in my courtroom without their lawyer. And I have to stand up and say, well, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I am the lawyer. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Brian Stevenson. I have to try to de-escalate this situation. And I was doing that recently. I was in a courtroom in the Midwest, and the judge started laughing, but it wasn't an apologetic laugh. And it kind of angered me. And the prosecutor started laughing. They thought it was so funny. And I was sitting there getting angry. And then I thought, oh no, Brian, you can't get angry. You need to smile. You may need to laugh. And I felt that way. I thought that way because my client was not going to be able to leave that county. I was able to leave that county and never come back based on the way I was treated if I chose to do that. But my client was going to have to stay there. So when they were laughing, I smiled. And then I eventually chuckled. Client came in, we did the hearing. But I remember sitting in my car after that hearing thinking, wow, here I am, this middle-aged black man. I'm in my best suit. I actually argued the case at the Supreme Court that we were trying to implement. I've got all of these degrees and awards, and I'm still required to laugh at my own humiliation to do justice for my client. That's not right. That's not fair. And I'm getting old enough to know that when you have to constantly navigate presumptions of dangerousness and guilt because of your color, when you have to tell your children how to survive a police encounter, what to do and what not to do, how they can't do the things that their white friends can do because they're going to be burdened with this presumption, when you have to constantly navigate this world, it's exhausting. And I want something better. I want something better for everybody. And that's why the commitment to truth-telling, the commitment to building institutions that help us understand the harms of history is such a priority.
Imagine being a Harvard lawyer sitting at a defense table and the judge starts laughing because he mistook you for the defendant. And you have to laugh along with him. You have to. That is because of Charlie Kirk and people like him. He directly caused that type of sentiment, that type of feeling. His words and actions directly, one-to-one correlate to people's suffering. He was not a good person. He was a scumbag.
Some nuance about the death of George Floyd that no one dares to say out loud, which is that this guy was a scumbag. Remember what BLM stands for? Burn, loot, and murder. Now, does that mean it deserves to die? That's two totally different things. Of course not. Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. There's no such thing as white privilege or racism. So black people are allowed to talk about black culture in a way that white culture cannot. Black people can go up and say that there's a baby mama problem in black America, and white people are not allowed to say that. Oh, I just did. So what are you going to do, cancel me? Black people are allowed to say. Black people are allowed to say.
He's fucking disgusting, dude. Saying this to a couple of black dudes. Fucking disgusting. That is evil. The point is that Charlie Kirk was a scumbag, and there is no context that can set this right, that can make this better. No matter how much Erica Kirk wants you to think that there's context that'll make it better, there just isn't. He was a bad person. And if he wanted people to not believe that he was a bad person when he was dead, then he should have been a better person when he was alive. Tell me what you think in the comments. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.